Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful multiverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition. And welcome to Midday with Reverend Don. And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments onto most of the platforms you might be watching it on. They'll show up here in my chat room. The chat room is on the screen because I have no guest today, and we can all talk together. Normally, my Wednesday guest is Chris Copeland, but she is unavailable this week. And that's just as well because we have a different subject to talk about. And as you know, the last couple of days, and hello to Reverend Michael in the chat room, it's good to see you. We have been talking about community projects and community resources and infrastructure and Project 2025 and how to deal with it. And those conversations have been a little on the heavy side. Today, we're going to talk about the Asian Lunar New Year. Today is the new year of the wood snake. And we're going to talk about what the wood snake represents and what this offers us. And on one hand, this is a great change in topic, a little bit more metaphysical, a little bit more cheerful. On the other hand, it's the same topic, and you'll see why as we talk about it. So, let us talk a little bit about Asian astrology. It's sometimes called Chinese astrology, but you find it throughout Asia. Hello to Swack Fan and hello to Nikki Dodd in the chat room. It's good to see you. And Asian astrology is very different from Mediterranean astrology, as you would expect. And it centers on the idea, at least as we mostly deal with it in the Western world, it centers on the idea of the 12 animal signs, the 12 animal zodiac. And these are 12 animals, each of whom is assigned a particular year, and they go through a 12-year cycle in sequence. They also are assigned one of the 5 Asian elements, which are not necessarily in order: air, fire, earth, water, metal, and wood, different from our Western elements. And these influence the meanings of the different signs. So, for example, we're leaving the sign of the dragon and we're entering the sign of the snake. And the snake has a number of qualities that it always has, but this particular snake is a wood snake. And that affects its qualities. Wood is about growth, fertility, malleability, um, flexibility. It's a very adaptive element, a very um, easily utilized element. And therefore, when the sign is influenced by wood, it is in its most adaptive and practical state. And the snake is all about transformation. Now, the year of the dragon, which we've just ended, was about external transformation. And I think we'd have to agree. And hello to Lolan in the chat room who says, Happy Year of the Snake. Happy Year of the Snake to you. And I think we all would have to agree this last year has seen a lot of external transformation most everywhere. This year, beginning today, the year of the wood dragon, is about internal transformation. The external transformation has happened. Now we react to it internally. Now we adapt ourselves to our changed circumstances. And this is what I've been talking about all week so far. This is where we must put our attention now. How do we deal with where we are? How do we transform to meet the needs and circumstances of the moment? Um, and Lolan says, is the snake the year of magic? And hello to Reverend Mary Hawk in the chat room. It's good to see you, Mary. And, well, I'd say that it's always the year of magic. But yes, snakes are particularly magical because of their ability to transform themselves by shedding their skin. So for us, as pagan people, as magical people, let's speak entirely as metaphysical people of all kinds, It's the time for us to use what we know. It is an auspicious time for magic. It's an auspicious time for transformation. And we need to transform ourselves from passive observers to active creators of our world. Now, some of us are already there, of course, but many of us have simply sat back and watched. And this is not really desirable for where we're currently sitting, certainly not as a community. And we need to take more practical actions. We need to transform ourselves in practical ways. And of course, magic is one of the ways in which we do that. And it's interesting. My restream is only giving me my chat room on the screen, not here on my computer, which it normally does, but that's okay. I can read it from the screen. Um, but this is the time for transformation. And that's what I've been talking about. How do we transform our community into a self reliant and self sufficient community that can survive whatever is thrown at it? That is our question now. And in many ways, this is the same answer that we ask ourselves as individuals. How do we go from being children to being adults? How do we lead ourselves to taking a practical and responsible role in the world in which we live? And that's where we are, not only as individuals, but as a community. Now, Nikki says, as a side note, I was born in the year of the tiger in 62. Very cool. And tiger is a very energetic and active year. I was born in the year of the rabbit, the water rabbit in particular. And if you ever hear us joke about fluffy bunnies and white bunnies, it's because so many of my associates are rabbits. My late mother was a rabbit. If I remember correctly, my late mother was a wood rabbit, where I am a water rabbit. Um, and yes, if you study Asian astrology, and we do teach about that in second degree, it's a far more complicated system than what we find on the placemats of Chinese restaurants in the United States. It is, it's not just about the one factor of the year that you're born in. Much as Western astrology, Mediterranean astrology is not just about the place where your sun is located in your birth chart, but so many other factors. The same is true for Chinese astrology. There are all sorts of different elements that influence the interpretation of your Asian astrology right down to the hour of your birth. Just as in Mediterranean astrology, it's very individual. It's not everyone born in the same year is the same, just as it's not in Mediterranean astrology, everyone born under the same sun sign is the same. But there are certain qualities that will tend to run through them. And Swackfan says, I was born in the year of the rat. And my grandmother Mabel was born in, I believe, the year of the pig, if I remember correctly. Um, my my cousin Crystal was born in the year of the rooster. There are many different. There are 12 different animal signs, and every one has its own meaning. The rat, I believe, is largely about intelligence and cunning and ability to think its way through situations. The tiger, I believe, is all about energy and strength and ability, and the snake is about charm and wisdom and transformation. And the interesting thing about Asian astrology is that this is relevant not only to those people who are born in the year, but to everyone who is living through a given year. Those qualities Are we back now? Well, that was an unexpected interruption, but as I was saying, the qualities of the year are relevant to everyone who's living through that year. And Reverend Mary says, I'm an earth monkey. And hello to Reverend Ed in the chat room. Hello to Steve Taylor in the chat room. And yes, and monkeys are about communication. Monkeys are all about communication, eloquence, and interacting with people. And of course, all of these different signs, all of these different elements have both positive and negative qualities. And how that's going to impact the individual is dependent on all those other things in the chart. And let me see. Well, at least I've got the computer version of the chat room back. Hopefully we won't have any further interruptions. But when we look at this, in terms of where we are now, and in terms of the snake, in the Western view, snakes are power. They're psychic energy. They are, at least from a pagan point of view, a very positive symbol. And of course, they're also transformation in the Western view as well. In the Asian view, they are transformation, they are charm, they are eloquence, they are the ability to convince people of what you want. What do we as a community need most right now? We need to project a positive image that convinces people that we are as deserving as anyone else of having our rights and status respected. We need to avoid emotional overreactions and instead make logical arguments. And again, we need to transform ourselves into an active participant in both creating our image and creating our world, something that some of us already are, but as a community, we've largely avoided. And, is this an easy change? Not necessarily. Is it a necessary one? I think it is. And I think that it is particularly fortunate that this year should be already attuned to those energies, that we can shed the skin of our negative traits and embrace our positive ones. And Lolan says, I am both a Leo and born in the year of Tiger, which Lolan says is close enough. And I think we can say that Lolan is a big cat. And yes, they actually have a lot in common. And astrology, I have found astrology to be extremely useful in my life. And, I've written Reverend Don's book of astrology. If you want to see some of my personal attitudes on astrology and how I interpret signs and aspects and so forth. And Nikki says, I'm a Sagittarius, the fire sign. In Western astrology, I'm a Gemini. And in Gemini, to compare it to Asian astrology, it's close to the monkey sign. Communication. Also has a lot to do with thought and intellect, but a lot to do with communication and sociability. But I also have heavy Taurus in my astrological chart, which tends to make me much more grounded than some Geminis might be. And when we look at charts, it's a fascinating thing because there are so many elements. You've got your sun sign, you've got the position of all the other planets, all of which are also important. You've got your ascendant sign, which is also very important and has a lot to do with how other people perceive you. My ascendant is Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is very philosophical, very spiritual, and also rather adventurous. And astrology would suggest that people often perceive me in those terms. And hello to Jade Rising. It's good to see you, Jade. When we look at Asian astrology, we see the same thing. Yes, there's the year sign, but there are so many other things involved. And, I know Asian astrology. I can practice it. I have. But I don't have an equal command of Asian astrology versus Mediterranean astrology. Um, but I do know. I mean, you have the heavenly stems and the earthly branches. You have a lot of different things influencing it. And as in a Western astrology chart, in an Asian astrology chart, there are all kinds of different things that influence the analysis of the character and the fate. And these are fascinating to study. And it's interesting to see how they interact with Mediterranean astrology. Now, in traditional Chinese culture, at this time of year, the time of the new year, a yearly almanac has been published for many centuries called the Zhu, which talks about the auspicious and inauspicious days of the coming year and many other issues of interest. If you're in a position to access that, you might find it interesting. Um, in Asian astrology, different days are considered to be auspicious or inauspicious, which is to say that there are some things that you would prefer not to do on certain days. It's a little bit like people treat Mercury retrograde in Western astrology. Um, Although I frequently do say that people do not, for the most part, understand or correctly react to Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is there to show you what needs fixing, not just to mess things up. It is really a help to you if you take action to fix those things when you see them. And it really should only affect the things that Mercury rules. And of course, there are other planets that go retrograde as well, not only Mercury. And when, for example, Saturn goes retrograde, um, it will affect those things that Saturn rules, which includes life lessons, includes structure, includes certain emotional situations. And astrology, if you really get into it, is very complex. And you can really immerse yourself in it. I don't. I use it, um, but I do not live by it. I allow it to advise me. I allow it to help me to make my decisions. And I can tell you that using Mediterranean astrology, all of the horoscopes for the coming year for me are looking very positive. I'm hoping that turns out to come to pass as predicted. And I hope that for you, your horoscopes are looking very positive. But, and this is a message I make many times, we are magical people. And so whatever the universe is offering you, you have the ability to make it what you desire and what you need. We do not study magic for no reason. We study it so that we can use it, even in the most negative times. It's like I often say, if your magic isn't going to help you when your car is skidding off the road, why did you study it? That's the moment when you need magic most. And so when you find yourself looking at situations like Project 2025 that certainly do not look hopeful, remember that we do have these metaphysical techniques. We do have these abilities to influence what comes to pass, and we must use them. And we must not be passive in simply allowing things that we fear to overwhelm us, things that perhaps don't look desirable to overwhelm us. Rather, we must meet that challenge and overcome it. We must use the skills and techniques that we have learned through spirit to create positive situations. And my message to you, if you're watching this, is that as we come into this year, when we do expect to see a lot of, pardon me for a moment, a lot of political challenges, is that we do not simply accept this. We work to transform it for the better. And I think as we do this, we need to be thinking in terms of transforming it for everyone's betterment, not only ourselves, but of course we must keep ourselves in mind. Um, for myself, when I think of the world I want to be in, I'm not just thinking about what is beneficial to me. I'm thinking of a world in which everyone, all things being equal, can live a good life regardless of who they are. Not necessarily regardless of what they do, but regardless of who they are, regardless of their ethnicity or their sexual orientation or their gender or what have you. Um, I do not think that these things should relegate people to a second class existence. And yes, I know there are a lot of people right now trying very much to move a number of people back into a second class existence, um, from which arguably they'd never fully escaped, um, but somewhat had escaped. And I see this as a very bad thing, particularly since I'm in many of those groups. And if you're listening to this, you are too, because the rise of Christian nationalism is not friendly to metaphysics as we practice it. They may have their own metaphysics, but it's of a very particular kind, and they really don't, in the long run, have room for us. I do not expect um, exactly a headlong assault on our community, but I do expect a sideways assault. And I think that at this time, the most practical thing we can be doing is building our alliances, strengthening the alliances we already have, avoiding unnecessary dissension, and thinking about how to positively express dissatisfaction with social policies that will limit us. And I had a lovely email yesterday from Kayleen, who was in the chat room the other day. Kayleen joins us from Australia. And she was talking about positive ways to write protest letters. And she was suggesting that we should put together educational sources on this subject. And I think this is a wonderful suggestion. Because, so often people in our community, if they decide they're going to write a protest letter, write an emotional screed of the subject, in which they basically give someone a piece of their mind. And while this is emotionally satisfying, it's rarely successful. What we need to do is to express our opinions in a way that helps those who maybe feel otherwise to realize that they are not right and that a change in their perception is beneficial to everyone. And that is not going to be done by going off on them. That will only alienate them. I talk about this, actually, I talk about this a lot, and it's something our community has never been good at. You do not win battles, as a rule, by just going off on someone. I often talk about the elders who complain that no one listens to them and point out that very often when they had to deal with younger people, they would go off on them because of things they didn't know or things that they felt were not right about them, um, before building any bridges with them, and then wonder why they weren't listening to them. If you go off on someone, if you just erupt emotionally at them, all you're going to do is strengthen their wall against you. This is really important for us to remember now. We need to be sober and practical and use our common sense in what we do if we wish to experience success. And, of all of our pagan leadership, the one that I would look at who I think has most embodied this is probably Selena Fox. And for the most part, she always maintains her message as positively as she can, even when it's necessary to be in a place of opposition. And I think for us in this coming period, we're going to have to do the same thing. We need to project an image of strength, an image of unity insofar as we can have it, and an image of positivity. We need to be good neighbors. We need to be persuasive. We need to use the energies of that wood snake because they are exactly the energies we need right now. And we should be thankful to the universe for providing those energies for us to attune to just at the moment that we need them. And so my recommendation to you is to attune to that energy of the wood snake and embody it as you go forward in life. And with that, I see we're coming to the end of our half hour, and let us have a moment for a word from our sponsors. And here we go.
Ready to unlock the secrets of the universe? Join me, Rev Don Lewis, for my metaphysical and magic auctions at Gaia Thrift at whatnot.com. Discover fascinating artifacts, mystical crystals, and rare and unusual books that could change your life. Don't miss this chance to bring a little magic into your world. Rev Don's Metaphysical and Magic Auctions, where the extraordinary can become yours.
And thank you to our sponsors, Equinox Learning Hub and Rev Don's Metaphysical and Magic Auctions. Our next auction from Gaia Thrift will be tomorrow, Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Central, and this will be particularly an auction of jewelry. So if you like jewelry, please join us for that auction at whatnot/user/Gaia Thrift. You can find links to it on my Facebook page and the Gaia Thrift Facebook page. And we will have a number of interesting pieces for offering tomorrow evening. And I hope that you are having a lovely day. And I want to again wish you a happy New Year of the Wood Snake. And may the energies of the wood snake empower us all. And with that, let us close with our prayer as we always do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we rejoice in this walk we walk together, and we ask you to help us to be practical and to have wisdom in how we go about the things that we do in order to have the greatest success for our goals, whatever they may be. Help us to find the best ways to move forward, and help us also to attune to the energies of the universe, to use these for our benefit. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love, knowing you are always with us. We thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. May you be blessed now and always. I thank you for your presence, and I'll see you again tomorrow.